So again, my name is Chris Feltz. I work on our product team. I have responsibility for kind of looking forward to what we're doing around our data connectivity needs. So as the boss mentioned, we'll talk quickly about our edge technologies. And as the boss mentioned today, the intent of today was to do a little deeper dive on all the product talks today. So I'm going to implement my deeper dive by having some partners come on stage and show us how they're using these edge technologies. So last for our demo, I'm going to welcome to the stage Michael Saucier and Reese Kirk from Transpera. They're going to give us yet another awesome demo to exemplify their use of the Edge Data Store.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Okay, well, I'm not going to read this slide to you, but I had to send something in that represented, let's say, some of the opportunities that exist at the edge. And I'm supposed to use this. Okay. So just to cover a couple of industries, retail, human, tracking humans like you do, that's a great demo, by the way, of keeping people safe. I really like that. But every industry is now realizing that data at the edge has an enormous amount of value in it. And it's stuck at the edge until you can get it into some place that you can do big data analysis on and come up with insight into what's happening at the edge. It doesn't matter whether in banking or retail or chemicals or pharmaceuticals. All these industries have this in common. So I think that we've got really not too many slides, right? Here's our architecture. So let's see, go ahead and let's put the first one up here. So we've got something called the Transpera Smart Edge software. It runs on top of EDS, and it lives in a small device. It could live in a Raspberry Pi, like one we've got up here. It could actually live inside a Pocket Beagle that actually runs EDS already. So there's almost no limit to the size of device that you can tap and get the value out of its data. So the first thing that we're going to show live is we're going to turn on a cold device, have it power up. We're going to spin up EDS in 1 minute, and it's going to identify itself to the cloud. The cloud's going to receive this this ping from the edge, and the cloud's going to come back and provision the device. That's going to put configuration information into the right place on the EDS device, and then it's going to start running according to the instructions given to it by our central server. Next one. So then EDS does its job. It starts collecting data, and if you lose connectivity, now it may not be in this exact build, but if you lose connectivity, the backfill mechanism that's in the roadmap that will certainly be in the GA product will come back and fill up the cloud with the stuff that you've been collecting all along while you're offline. It's especially important to people with assets that might go underground, mining operations, for example. If you've got things that lose connectivity, or you're in spotty coverage area, or you've got a cell phone that you want to spin up a few times a day, upload the data from some remote solar-powered faraway place. So the idea of collecting the data and keeping it at the edge until you have a chance to push it up into some more permanent storage is really powerful. So the final thing that happens is we push the data to OSIsoft Cloud Services. The Visual KPI components in the center read that data and that metadata coming from the edge, and we automatically identify KPIs, metrics, hierarchy, navigation, trends that ought to be associated with that class of device, and we deploy those to the Visual KPI server programmatically. And then finally, there's a human, that's going to be us, and if all goes according to plan, within something like a minute or a minute 20 seconds, we can plug a cold device in, have it spin up, identify, and show up on the screen in our software ready to consume by a human. So what have we got here? We've started with a handful of devices. There's a device count in the top, 3 different device types. We've got 2 EDS objects running in Windows boxes. We've got 2 EDS instances running on a Raspberry Pi, and we're going to plug in a 5th device, and it's going to self-identify and just pop up on the screen. So let's give it some power and start communicating. Basically, ET is phoning home, asking, what should I do? So over the course of the next minute or so, that communication handshake takes place, and we instantiate a bunch of new streams in OCS. Those streams are then fed into the Transpera Visual KPI server, and all the objects around that are created programmatically, and then they'll pop up on the screen. So I think we should start a timer. But now, remember the path it's taking. The device has to identify, has to connect to the endpoint and say, I'm alive. The endpoint has to say, well, what's your class ID so I can do something about that? We look it up in a database. Oh, you're a pump. You're a motor control center. You're whatever. You're a gas chromatograph. This is the things I need from you. The device came up. The device count went to 5. The device located itself on the map, so you can see it's connected and showing on the map, but it doesn't get any data yet. It's building the tags. And then we'll see the data that was collected by EDS will eventually show up in OCS, which is the source for this screen. So this is a web server product called Visual KPI. It's in front of OCS as the data store. Was it like this in Barcelona? Was it? I can't remember. Because in Barcelona, we have the KPIs are created now in San Francisco. And they should be showing up in the trend lines here shortly.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so now the new device that was provisioned is this EDS device 1. It joins its brothers 2 and 3, some very clever naming. But now the data stream is in the blue line inside the state of that data. So the color represents whether it's in good, high, low, whatever. And so now what we've got is the big punchline of a self-provisioning EDS-based edge device that could be any IoT device. It could be on a big Caterpillar machine. It could be on a boring machine underground. It could be on a head of lettuce, or maybe even a vertically grown California marijuana factory. So it could be almost anything. That's it for us.
All right. Thank you. I'll take this. So thanks, Michael. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late, but that was, it's hard to tell, but that was an impressive demo. From 0, he plugged in his device, it phoned home, it got its configuration, pushed it back down from the cloud via the Wi-Fi here in the conference room, and then Edge Data Store started collecting from the sensors on board the Raspberry Pi. Very, very impressive in that maybe it took a minute longer than we expected, but within 3 minutes, all that happened. So, again, think about these places where Pi servers may be not a good fit. This is a great example. Imagine spinning up a Pi system and getting it, collecting data, and then sending data to the cloud in 3 minutes. Very impressive. So there's Michael, his contact information. Unfortunately, I don't have Reese's info, but we'll get it to you if you need it.